Just got Ororon, literally just got him to friendship level 5, as you can see over here. So, it is time for more story. Also, apparently we have more voiceover, but I'll check that later. Oh, character story 4. If you had both the time and the patience to sift through the ancient texts and woven scrolls of the Masters of the Nightwind, you'd be amazed at the sheer range of topics they covered. For instance, who would want to read a series of Inazuman light novels that ended its run several hundred years ago? Or this analysis of 3,600 different forms of the ash of burnt paper and their prophetic applications? Who even went through the trouble of putting that together? Sorry, wherever these things originated, the somewhat sad truth is that it now falls upon Ororon to read and organize them. At first, he simply wanted to check the historical records for mentions of fragmented souls, but then words like ley lines, Lord of the Night, and spirit started cropping up. Soon after, he found himself reading through works of non-fiction and even fantasy novels, and before long, the books were piled up high like a mountain of cacahuatl. Oh my gosh, you guys. If this isn't just like... if this doesn't describe me just falling into a rabbit hole of like research, right? Right? Oh my gosh. That's so neurodivergent of him. Ororon had essentially become a volunteer librarian, utterly submerged in a sea of knowledge that had absolutely nothing to do with him. I'm not that curious, Ororon thought to himself, beginning to feel a bit weary. But then again, he didn't really have anything else to do. And it wasn't as if the long hours of reading had been entirely fruitless. The most reasonable explanation he had to come across so far came, to his surprise, in a tattered storybook about mystical creatures. It was written that, during the Archon War of the distant past, some Archons had experimented with merging the bloodlines of beasts and humans. That's a huge reveal. What? Their goal, hoping to gain the upper hand, was to create warriors with powers that surpassed those of ordinary mortals. Most of these attempts failed, but a few flawed remnants survived, even persisting to the present day. Sounds plausible enough, Ororon mused to himself, but it's just a storybook. And yet, even if it is just a storybook, it certainly sounds plausible enough. From a practical standpoint, he knew that with his 20-something-year-old mind alone, he'd never uncover the truth, no matter how hard he thought. He is 25, guys. I'm just kidding. Sometimes you just have to accept your own limitations and ignorance, or else make up a story to amuse yourself. In the end, Ororon reached the point where he simply could not bear to read another word. He took a few minutes to come up with the subtlest justifications that he could muster, and said to himself, "It's like a puzzle game. When you try to force pieces together that don't match, there's bound to be distortion, friction, even breakage." And one day, over 20 years passed, he was that broken puzzle piece, the one who had experienced the misfortune of being dropped onto the cold, hard stone. I didn't expect that to end so sadly, but why did it end so sadly? But yes, that neurodivergent inability to escape like a narrow area of interest until you've learned every single thing that you can about it. Very relatable. Very, very relatable, right? I just had a slight revelation. They just literally described Ororon as a broken puzzle piece. And I do not like this analogy, but it is an incredibly common one, thanks to Autism Speaks. Ugh. But that puzzle piece has literally been a symbol for autism, like, for so long. This is the connection that I didn't want to find. But yeah, he was that broken puzzle piece. Oh my god. I don't like that, but I can't help but notice it. So, like, don't subscribe.